working
25% increase everywhere.
Every basic ability, skill, and talent can be developed through hard work, good strategies, persistence, dedication, and input from others. Where focus goes, energy flows. So focus your energy on continuous learning and stop wasting time thinking about looking smart. Build resistance, build vulnerability, build courageousness, and face adversity with a smile. Become comfortable with uncomfortable. You know, the only person that you need to prove anything to is you. Imperfect action trumps perfect inaction. Stop wasting time and get on with it. Failure is part of learning, so start learning by taking action.
Kristian Livolsi. Welcome
It's
to the
funny.
hot seat. That was a very abrupt start.
I'm here, but I'm blank. What about, oh, there we go. I'm back. I'm here. There, we're both here.
Oh, amazing. Welcome to the hot seat. It is Tuesday. You are back on Australian soil. How was Europe?
Europe was great. It was intense. It was a really amazing experience, you know, hanging out with my family for 3 and a bit weeks in sometimes confined spaces was, you know, a challenge, as other parents would understand. But the kids were great. They had a fabulous time. We're very blessed, and that we got to do what we got to do. And yeah, it was highly recommend people with teenagers to do Europe. Not necessarily with people with children that are 6 and 9, despite the fact they had a great time. But I think the level of appreciation of the trip probably wasn't as much as, you know, if they were a little bit older and understood a few more things. But you know, walking into the palaces and the castles that we did, that blew them away. And obviously Disneyland Paris was the highlight. Disneyland Paris, ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you a tip. It's fantastic for children. It's a freaking nightmare for parents. You know, we spent 482 minutes in lines. So standing up in lines. And on some occasions we had express passes too. And we walked like 17 kilometers. So it's but I mean, it is an amazing place. I got to say, the Disney magic is real, but it's chaos. There's thousands of people. Oh, and tip, go after 5. Right?
Oh, okay.
It blew me away. So after 5:30, you could get on a ride in under 7 or 8 minutes. Before that, it's like all the people with prams just leave. So, yeah.
That's when the witching hour starts for even younger children. So that's probably why they get out then, and you can get a bit of space to breathe, which is great. Well, I'm excited to have you back here for the hot seat. I really missed you with my annoying questions of, hey, Kristian, and everything else. So we've got some really cool stuff coming and planned for people in the weeks to come, which is great. But today I wanted to really talk to you about avatars, and you know, there's so many different names of the people that we're talking to, and you know, having this ideal client and those sorts of things. So I've got 3 questions for you today that I wanted to break down. We're going to get through this nice and quick because I know you're still coming off the other side of jet lag and some illness. I'm actually visiting one of our clients today, Alison, from Helping Humans Thrive. We're doing a strategy session. So let's get into my first question that I have for you today, Kristian. And that is, why should we have a client avatar, that ideal client persona? Why do we need it?
Okay. Having a client avatar or an ideal client persona is actually an essential part of your marketing strategy, but also your sales strategy, right? Because it allows you to tailor your marketing effort, or for this case, let's call it marketing strategies, as well as your product development to meet, well, the specific needs, the behaviors, and also the concerns of your target audience, okay? So by understanding who you are that you're serving, Simone, people can actually create highly targeted messaging that should, in essence, resonate deeply, but also improve engagement as well as increase conversions. So essentially, a well-defined avatar helps ensure that your business efforts are not just effective, but efficient, right? And it minimizes waste and maximizes impact. So the strategic focus not only enhances customer satisfaction, but it will actually drive you sustainable business growth. So that's why I think it's important to have it.
Okay. This is not my second question, but it's a sub question because I know a lot of people might be thinking this right now. Can I have more than one avatar?
Look, start with one, make lots of money with one, then start a second. Right?
Yeah, because this is something we hear quite often with our clients, right?
If I took this advice myself, we'd be wealthier, right? So it really is. You should start with one, nail it, then start another one. So the answer to your question is yes, you can have multiple avatars and personas, but only have one, succeed with one, then move on to the next.
Yeah.
So,
because this is what we always say, right? We can help so many different type of people. Why do we have to niche to one person? Why does it just have to be one when we know that we can serve more?
Yeah, look, and it's incredibly frustrating because, there's lots of, let's look at business coaching, for example. So you've got business coaches that are now, everywhere. They're specializing. Mate, they're not specialists, right? And people are getting sucked into this because they go, oh, they must know, let's say that I'm an allied health practitioner and there's a new coach that specializes in dietetics. You really want to be coached by another dietitian? Or do you want to be coached by a business person who's run 80 businesses and understands the mechanics of what's going to happen? Or do you want to be coached by someone who was a dietitian and possibly didn't even get their business off the ground? Like, yes, there are, in the e-com space, for example, there's some amazing coaches, right? Some that have created $500 million businesses who now all of a sudden want to be coaches.
Yeah.
Just because you created a $500 million business doesn't mean you can teach the formula. An e-com business is an e-com business, right? You don't need to, it's the product you sell that's going to make the significant difference. Does that make sense? So if if you're selling a shit product that nobody wants, so do you need to go to an e-com coach, or do you actually need to go to someone who can pull apart your product and tell you whether or not it's marketable, it's doable, and whether there is an audience for it, right? So, and I mean, this is why when I was the inaugural entrepreneur in resident at the University of Adelaide, I was able to get such quick results for so many different people in totally different sectors because I've got a cross section of experience, and business is business, right? So when you go and do an MBA, they don't teach you an MBA that's specific to e-com businesses. They don't teach you an MBA that's specific to medical practices. So as a society, we've become conditioned to appeal to that area of niching. So you've got two schools of thought. If you're a business coach, then bloody niche, right? Pick an industry and go for it. Work that one, then start another one. Because if you try going down the general path, it's a very, very hard slog because people have been roped into believing that someone that is just using the word service providers knows something about fucking service providers. Right? Or creatives, or, and it's like, this shit drives me crazy because it comes down to, it's like what AI is doing at the moment, Simone.
Yeah.
Everyone's an expert. Punch it into ChatGPT and you can sound like me.
Hmm.
My God, I just heard. Is that coming from you?
Can you hear that? That's a train just
Oh
going
my God,
past.
I sat here. I'm like, oh my God, was that a toilet flushing? Like where? Um, but it was a
No,
train.
it's a train.
No.
It's a
So
train.
I
Yeah.
think that's what's important to have an avatar. And yes,
Hmm.
if the smart advice is niche as tight as you
Yeah.
can, and go for it. Despite my opinion, that's what I'm saying. I have a very strong
Okay.
opinion on this, but I also can provide really strong, supportive, evidence based advice, which is you should niche, right?
Yeah.
Don't do
Okay.
what I do and stay stubborn and go no.
Okay, look, we're not going there today. All right, my second question is I'm convinced I need to create my avatar. I need to get this niche. What do I do next? How do I actually create this
Right.
person?
So let's give away all the free steps that we need to do to help people on their journey, because that's what we do here. So, look, creating a client avatar actually involves a mix of research, analysis, and also a little bit of creativity, right? So, I've got a step by
Hmm.
step process that I use, and this is not necessarily the exact one, but it's one that I'm happy to share with everybody. One, you've got to collect the demographic data, right? So, you've got to start with the basics: age, location, gender, income levels, education, marital status. The data sets the foundation for your avatar, right? Then you've
Hmm.
got to understand the psychographics, right? So you've got to dive into their hobbies, the values, the challenges, but also their fears, right? So what motivates them? What are their goals?
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
then you've got to analyze the customer feedback, right? If you're already an existing business, look at your existing customers. What common characteristics or interests do they share? I constantly say this to all of you guys, right? And then, what is the feedback and the reviews that can provide those insights into the needs and the preferences? How many times do we survey our own customers and find this
Mm.
stuff out? And we build pattern data, right? Like that's really cool. Then you've got
Yeah.
to engage in what I would call social listening, right? So monitor the social platforms for discussions around your industry. What pain points or desires do people actually express? Um,
Hmm.
the fifth step is, I think it's five. Fifth step is to create detailed scenarios, right? So develop the scenarios in which your avatar interacts with your product and service. What specific problems does it actually solve for them? Okay.
Hmm.
So what specific problems does your whole avatar and solution actually solve for them? Then what you're going to do is you're going to consult your own team. You're going to engage with your sales and customer service teams. And if it's just you, engage with yourself to get the insights into the types of customers that we interact with. So if you're a
Hmm.
solo entrepreneur, who are the type of people you interact with? Right? Now, obviously, this is going to be less necessary if you're a tradie, right? If you're a plumber, well, then none of this is really that relevant, okay?
Yeah.
Because you don't need to have an avatar. They've just got to be a homeowner, right? Or you might actually go after home investors, because
Hmm.
if you can find a group or an investor that has 10 properties, they'd love to have one Sparky and a plumber that they can rely on all the time, right? So again,
Yeah.
this is very having avatars is not for every business, especially if you're a service-based business with emergency services. Then you just need to be top of mind, and you need to be number one, number two. And that's why if you want
Yeah.
to advertise as a plumber or electrician, mate, the fees are through the roof on Google and on Facebook. So you got to look at
Hmm.
other ways to stay in front, and that's another day, another conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, your avatar there would be homeowners or home investors, right?
Hmm.
Because who needs a plumber? It's people that actually
Yeah.
reside in a property. It could be restaurants. So you might want to become a commercial plumber or commercial electrician, right?
Yeah.
So then what I like to do is I actually draft multiple avatars. So it's often useful to create several avatars for different segments of your market to address the various customer needs effectively. Okay.
Hmm.
So, and that's kind of what I've been saying to you guys. Like, even with our business, we call out entrepreneurs, but let's call out service providers. Let's call out creatives. I mean, shit, I've owned a media company since 2005, right?
Hmm.
Like, and yet people don't. Yet I don't coach agencies because I own an agency. Well,
Yeah.
maybe even in our organisation, it's time to make that shift. It's time to
Yeah.
go. Well, hang on a minute. Shit, I've had 3 successful agencies. 2 have flipped already and sold as exits. Why wouldn't I coach other agencies? And I've actually got a prospecting call this week with an agency owner and one next week who owns a strategic marketing business. Because
Okay.
in
This
conversation,
kind
they've
of
come out to me, right? So,
this sort of flows into my next question then that I have for you, Kristian, that should you be reviewing your avatar at specific intervals, or is it because these people have now come to you and they're in that marketing circle? It's like, let's revisit this. Let's talk about whether this is a great avatar for our business. Like, should you
look,
be thinking about these opportunities?
absolutely. I mean, my thinking this week has all stemmed from yesterday's conversation that we had on our, on our team meeting, right, after I've been away. So, I'm regularly reviewing and updating our client avatar, right? So, yes, the answer to your question is yes. And it's crucial because you've got to maintain the relevancy as well as the effectiveness of your marketing strategy, right? Now, some of the guidelines that I use that might be beneficial to others, and maybe I'm just kind of having a coaching call with you. That's maybe how I'm looking at this today. But, we're just doing it live. Now, there's got to be an annual review, right? You've got to set a regular annual schedule to assess your avatar, just like you have to assess everything in your business, right? And this is a systematic approach that actually ensures that any shifts in the market or even in consumer behavior is captured as well as addressed, right?
Yeah.
You should also review it after any kind of major market changes. Now, let's be clear, there's a lot of market changes happening at the moment. I called it, a year and a half, 2 years ago, that we wouldn't go into a recession in this country. People laughed at me. Some of our customers laughed, and some moved on because they didn't believe me. Well, suck shit. You went and believed all these people that told you there was going to be a recession. Well, there isn't one, and there won't be one, at least not on paper, which is what I said, right? Because you need 2 negative quarters in a row. Now, the markers aren't going to be there, but we are in a recession, right? We are seeing a contraction of the market. How do I know that? Having owned 13 to 14, whatever the bloody number was, of restaurants and bars and catering companies, they're all going broke. That's a retraction in the market. Why? Because that's the first thing that gets the spending stops, right? But also what's also happened, a lot of these venues price gouged. They started jacking their prices up after COVID, knowing that people were going out. And now they've created this market perception that going out to eat is too expensive. Well, I can tell you what's expensive. Going out to London, right, for 4 pizzas in a wood oven pizza joint, not a nut market one, just fucking Pizza Express, and it costs $340 for 4 people, right? Like, the day we arrived, I had the family over and we ordered takeaway, and it cost me $130 in takeaway. I'm never complaining about our pricing here, right? But you've got venues that are gouging, so you've got this whole. So now, I guess if you've got an avatar right now, you should be reviewing it based on the market forces that are currently happening at the moment, right? And so, I mean, I'm very lucky. Well, you make your own luck, but I'm very fortunate because I sit on some very high-level boards, which I chair or I'm a board member of. So we get a lot of economic global data and national data, and we interpret that data. So I can filter that back down to the mum and dad businesses that we have, and and that's what gives them the edge to be in front all the time. So I think right now the biggest thing that everyone should be looking at, look at your avatar and look at the spending pattern. More importantly, that what affects them, right? So I can tell you now unequivocally, we are going through a market contraction. We will not see a recession on paper, right? I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it confidently and strongly, right? The data strongly suggests that it won't, unless there's a catastrophic, another epidemic that pops up, right, or a pandemic. The key here is that there is a contraction in the market, and we're seeing it first in that restaurant industry, the service industry. And so what I'd be saying to people is your avatar is going to contract too. So are you in a recession-proof business? Like, for example, I consult to medical practices and cancer hospital and bits and pieces, and these are recession-proof businesses, right? Medical practices are recession-proof. Psychology practices are recession-proof, right? So all of these people that are joining all of these practice-specific coaching programs, mate, you shouldn't be there because you're not going to get told what really is happening in the market, right? You guys are recession-proof, You should be looking at how to grow, scale, drive, right? And a lot of it is people resource issues, like it's infrastructure, right? Like, the 4 biggest barriers to growth, right, is what people should be focusing on. And they are people, they are marketing, they are leadership, and their infrastructure, right? And those things, are very, very specific in terms of what you can do. But I think that they all impact your own avatar, because if all of a sudden the market is contracting, and I might be right, which I am, all of a sudden, if your avatars are contracting, you might have to look for another avatar. Does that make sense? I mean, the workforce pressure is there, but, look, and I shouldn't probably say this on here, but, I'm kind of glad that people are going under. I'm glad that a lot of these businesses are finally starting to, the zombies post-COVID are falling over, because we need the workforce back. Not everyone should own a business. I know so many great employees who go off and open a business on this whim of, I'm better than the principal. You're not. You might be, but you're not necessarily built to be a business owner. And so what we've got this free market where all these people have left, being great employees, like being outstanding. Perhaps they didn't get looked after as well as they should have, right? But they've gone off thinking they can do it on their own. Mate, running a business is hard work, right? Okay, there is formulas, there are systems, there are tools, but you've got to be on board. You've got to be sharp all the time, and a lot of time it's a lonely place. So a lot of these people that get into business become, once that excitement's gone and the pressure comes, and all of a sudden your first fucking BAS bill comes in and you don't pay it, and then you accumulate it, and then the next one arrives, and this is what's going to happen. Remember, I said it in our meeting 4 or 5 weeks ago. I said, you watch the pain that we're going to see in the middle of May when the quarter BAS is due. Because I know for a fact, I've been reading ATO data, a lot of people postponed their December BAS because they didn't have a strong end of the year. Well, guess what? They're not going to be able to make this payment. Guess what's going to happen? Defaults. And the ATO's gone to town on everyone now, because they're basically saying, let's just wind it out. Great, excellent, great work. But also go after the big businesses that don't pay tax, is what I say to the ATO. It's time that the big companies like Apple and Google and everyone else, Facebook, all the money we're spending on advertising with these organizations, they need to start paying that back so that this country can become the clever country it used to be, right? So, don't just kill the mum and dad businesses who have busted their ass. But if you're a mum and dad business, I'm diverting a bit here, but if you're a mum and dad business and you're currently looking at this and you're going, fuck, the numbers don't stack up, it's time to get out. Don't drop your ego, right? Like, I got asked this question this morning by someone who hadn't seen me, that came into my office and they said, hi. And they're like, Kristian, what advice? And they had a friend who is currently having a really bad time in their business, and their business was going great. And I said, is the business worth anything? Yeah, no, it's worth really good money at the moment. Then sell it. Oh, they'll never sell it. They got into business because they wanted to. I said, sell it now. Put it on the market now. Get the highest profit market for it. If he holds on, this bloke's going to be broke at the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
If he's already enduring burnout, and would you talk to him? I'm like, not really, right? Like, why not? I said, because I've just given you the only advice they need. They need to sell it. Sell it now to someone who's got excitement and passion and purpose and can recapitalize the business, right? It's already making money. It's got great clients. So just do that. So and again, that's also part of this reviewing your avatar. Review your own business. You weren't meant to be in business for 100 years, right? Business is not a marriage. When you sign up to a business, you're the custodian for that company, right? Same thing is that, and unlike a marriage where you are signing out, that's it, death do us part, right? Business is not the same. Business is not your fucking child. I say this to people, business is not your baby. Now, I can say that because I was one of those dumbasses, there's another train. I was one of those dumbasses who believed that, his businesses were babies, and I didn't sell them. And then when I had fucking 15, 20 of these things running simultaneously with over 200 staff, and then the GFC hit, well, guess what happened to me? I lost the whole damn lot. $13 million in turnover gone. That's pain. And so when I give people this advice, it's real advice. It's not some bullshit thing, or, like I always say to people, I don't have some lemonade stand fucking entrepreneur story. I became an entrepreneur in my mid-20s, when I started my first business. Like I went out and worked for other people, and then realized, oh my God, working for other people as hard as I work sucks, you know. And so I went out and did my own thing, you know. So same thing. So look, you know, the other time, by the way, that you should actually check your avatar is following a product launch of any kind. But more importantly, always look at your competition. Always look at your customer feedback loops. You know, I go on and on about customer feedback loops all the time. But, you know, by revisiting your avatar at specific intervals, Simone, you actually ensure that your business stays aligned, okay? And it stays aligned with your target market. But also, what it also does is if your target market is evolving and its needs are evolving, right? You're able to continue to evolve and adapt. And I guess that's probably the biggest thing now is, you know, obviously we've got a lot of people listening because there's fucking thumbs up coming everywhere, which is great, which obviously this is resonating with people. And I hope it does because, mate, 3.5 weeks away, seeing the rest of the world, we live in the best country, but we've just got the shittest attitude, right? We're not there to support one another. Here it's like, let's fucking tear that person down. Mate, it's not about tearing people down. It's about lifting people up, being firm, giving people the right advice, right? And it's not about singing Kumbaya and holding fucking hands. Like sometimes it's hard. You know, I mean, I'm
it's the brutal honesty, right? Like what you deliver on these calls, what we deliver to our clients. That's what it's all about. It's just being real and moving when we need to.
Sunshine and rainbows, because business isn't sunshine and rainbows all the time. But what it can be is it can be fun. And sometimes closing one business to open another is the right thing to do. You know, but I love what I do, Simone. Like, you know, you guys know that. I love what I do, and I get really pissed off about a lot of things. You know, I get frustrated. But that's because I just care. And, you know, I look at what we do every single day, and I could do so many different things, right? You know, I could go back and do property development and sink $20 million into projects. You know, I've done all these things. But what I love doing is being able to tell people the truth about where they're at. And people don't want to hear the truth sometimes. That's great. I'm not the person for you. But when you look at it and you go, yeah, that makes sense. It does. And remember, if you've owned a successful business once, you can sell and start another one and make it just as successful. Right? Yeah. Because it's a formula, right? And success and failure always leave clues. You know, but as I said earlier, avatars are a really important part of any business. And I've got to admit, in fairness, we don't get it right in our organization. Not always. I mean, we get it right sometimes. And the reality of it is, it's hard when you are actually able to help lots of people. So you've got to be able to pare it back and say, okay, out of all of these people, which ones are the ones that make me the most profit? That's how you should look at it. You know, and realistically, you know, while I've been thinking about this, and you know, I was talking to a client this morning who's in the medical industry, and they just said, Kristian, why don't you just go out and become a coach to doctors? I said, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? You know, all the medical people I know, all the doctors that I know, they're terrible at business because no one's ever taught them to do business. That's not a and some of them might be listening. They'll be thinking, "You're such a wanker, Kristian," but I'm not. It's the truth. If you guys are there to keep people alive, to help people live their best life from a health perspective, right? You're not there to run your medical practice and have 10 people in your business, and you know a lot of these poor doctors get scammed and screwed constantly by accountants or by financial advisors or by anyone else. And, you know, doctors in particular, or the medical fraternity, mate, they can borrow money at really cheap rates, and they don't even have to go through all the, you know, like, I make more money than most doctors, and I have to jump through hoops to get money from the bank, right? Yet my clients can walk into a bank, borrow $3 million when they can't even service it on paper because they're doctors in the industry is, you know, because it's a recession-proof industry, right? But you would think with that kind of and by the way, there are lots of really smart doctors out there, right, who are very business savvy and have done extremely well. But that's the minority. So I guess what I'm saying is, you know, and this is what this client said to me, Kristian, you really should just go down that path because also they respect you. You are a chairman of a hospital. Like, you know, you've had lots of experience in that area. And then I kind of
And I
just
think
remember,
that's probably a whole avatar that we need to unpack and dig into on that.
is.
Yes.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, in real time, I'm explaining to our audience, right, which is really important, that you got to review your avatar all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, even me, I'm doing it now on this call. I'm doing it live with you. Like, my brain is going at 1,000
Going on
miles an hour,
fire.
saying why. And if you can see, I'm reflecting on conversations I had this morning with clients and with people, and I'm like, you know, the answer sometimes is right there, but you've got to be in the mindset of it. And that's why I love these hot seats. I love these questions that you come up with and ask, because a lot of the time it's just getting me thinking about, how does that relate to what we're doing? And that's what it should do to you. You know, and there's so many people listening. This is amazing. This is, I think, the biggest episode we've had. I mean, I don't know. I'm
Maybe
looking at
people
like
have just missed you so much. We haven't,
we
we
haven't
haven't
150,
been live.
160 people. Like, that's insane. And that's only what we can
We
see.
haven't been
because
live
we
for
can't
quite
see.
some time.
We
So
can't see
I'm
that on LinkedIn.
glad to
So
see the audience here.
yeah, so that's amazing, guys. And, you know, even if you're writing, we can't see it. So Ecamm's got some challenges at the moment. Other people are having them as well. We can't even
100%.
push it into the groups. But look, it is great to be back. It's you know, and again, another amazing hot seat. Simone, I know you got to go because you got to go back to the client.
Yes, Alison is waiting.
Yeah, so say hi to Alison. I look forward to seeing her on the call on Thursday morning.
Absolutely. Kristian Livolsi, as always, it's so refreshing to have you back on these calls. I've missed them. And our audience certainly has missed them as well, digging into these real experience, real life conversations. And it's not always, like you say, the sunshine and rainbows, but it's the reality of where we're all at and what we actually need to bring to the forefront of our mind. So thank you again for your time and your insights, and we will be back next Tuesday with another episode of The Hot Seat.
Thanks, Simone. And now I've got to press a button, don't I?
You do.
Yeah, message from Adrian Lee. See you guys.
Working with Kristian is a game changer. Hi, I'm Adrian Lee from GrowthLink Coaching and Consulting. I started working with Kristian in August 2020 as his LinkedIn growth consultant. We worked together on his LinkedIn brand for about 12 months before becoming business partners in Growth Outsourced late 2021. Kristian is a hidden genius. He helped me break through a significant financial target by restructuring my growth consulting online business offer. I don't know of any one person who can give you so much focus, clarity, and structure to live your purpose and get shit done. He holds you accountable to your words and gives you the tough love when you need it. I love his no BS approach to business and life. Everyone needs a Kristian Livolsi in their life. Do whatever you have to work with Kristian. This is just the beginning for us, and I am super pumped to continue growing together. Thanks again, Kristian.